Welcome to JustWannaQuilt, a research podcast coming out of Tulane University Law School, where we explore all kinds of things, stories about quilting, tools, field trips, maybe some famous quilters stop by, and, of course, a little bit of copyright thrown in just for fun. I'm Elizabeth Townsend Guard, your host. I'm a law professor at Tulane University Law School. I also have 2 fellowships now, one at the Business School, a LePage Faculty Fellow, and one at the Newcomb Institute, the Greenbaum Fellowship, both at Tulane. And I just want to quilt. So today we talk with Pam Heller and Joy Banfield, who both are at AccuQuilt. And AccuQuilt is doing amazing things to help with the production of masks, homemade masks. They both have dies that we already have, or you can order a die, and also they're making custom dies for groups that have particular patterns that will make it faster for them to cut those patterns out. So we talk to Pam and Joy from AccuQuilt.
I'm Heller, calling from Omaha, Nebraska.
And I'm Joy Banfield, calling from Omaha, Nebraska.
Awesome. How is Omaha, Nebraska at this moment? You guys, I think, are a little bit behind us. Oh, no, you had the first cases go to your hospitals, right?
We did. The University of Nebraska Medical Center is one of the top infectious disease hospitals in the country. So all of those first patients came here.
Wow.
And they worked with quarantine protocols and all of that. So as a whole, we are not, we've just now started going under that 30-day quarantine where they've closed down, tattoo shops and all of those non-essential kinds of places. But pretty much until then, we were here. So
interesting.
The governor seems pretty committed.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, the governor has seemed pretty committed.
That's good.
Really wanting to not have to do the whole lockdowns like some other states have had to.
Like so Louisiana.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people are being pretty good about following
I think
the mandates. I think we've got one intern today who was just telling us about how they had to cancel their wedding and they're working through workarounds for it. So people are, really trying to follow the rules, I think.
It's really interesting. It's kind of a moment of us coming together in an interesting way.
Yeah.
All right. So we're doing quick show. So we're going to do like 20, 30 minutes so we can get this out. I have been, so look at today. This is what I'm doing today.
I'm so proud of you.
Yeah. So I've made 4, and I've got a bunch in progress. So I should have 10 done in the next hour or so. And I wanted to talk to you because I know that you did a Facebook Live yesterday. And I want to tell you, so you're for full disclosure, you're one of our sponsors for our Inventory Quilt Project, and you sent us a system, which it is kind of remarkable because I'm very, very inaccurate, and so your AccuQuilt is really made for me. It's kind of remarkable. I didn't think I needed it. I was like, whatever. Then I got it, and I was like, whoa. Same with the ties. I'm using your the 1 1/4 strip, and it's working great. It really is. I mean, the longest part is the pressing part, which you can't get really around, but even that's getting faster. So tell me what you all are doing, and I know you've kind of jumped into all of this, and tell us sort of what's AccuQuilt, sort of the position of AccuQuilt and what you're thinking about for those out there with AccuQuilt systems or those that are thinking about purchasing one and might think about doing it to help with the masks.
So I think I'm going to let Joy talk about our community outreach and what we're doing, and then I'll talk about specific dies that we can use.
Okay, cool. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Does that work, Joy?
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. Yeah, so as a whole, we're trying to jump in where we can. We've gotten some requests on whether we can actually cut the fabric or make kits, and we're not there yet, but really what we're trying to do is provide a fabric cutting solution.
That's great.
For all of these groups that you're seeing organized across the country.
Yeah.
Our very first really entrance into this was Sunday afternoon. Pam got an email from a church group saying, hey, there's this organization of people that are working with our local Methodist hospital. And by about 9 p.m. Sunday, the request was down in our manufacturing plant to make a couple of custom,
Oh, that's
so
really
by Sunday
cool.
night, we had a custom dies set up to be made. They made 4 of them on Monday, And by Tuesday morning, they were up here in Omaha.
No way.
And then by noon on Tuesday, we were at a local quilt shop. Actually, somebody who used to work at AccuQuilt as one of our educators, and then moved into our training department and worked for me for a while. Left to open her own quilt store, and by noon there were 6 of us in there working to cut fabric and get everything together. And I believe the number at the end of the day was something like 60,000 masks cut and put in kits of 25.
Yeah, they cut 6,000 kits.
So 6,000.
I think 25 in each, but we'll have to double check those numbers for you, Elizabeth.
Yeah, that's totally okay. Okay, so if people are listening, I hope they're listening, but when people are listening, you go to AccuQuilt.com, and right on their front page you have Quilting Under Quarantine. And you all are making masks that are you doing, what kind of masks are you making? Because that's the big question right now. Which ones? I made super simple ones because I'm figuring like I'm going to make different patterns each day, but right now I'm just get them done. And so I made the super simple surgical mask with the 3 pleats, and that was super easy. And then did since we are audio only, I'm describing them. And then I did a 1 1/4 bias from the AccuQuilt on each side, and I made it the width of the fabric, so they're just I just did big long strips and then put them on the system.
That's awesome. I know more about masks than I ever thought I would.
Yes.
So that would be classified as the surgical mask.
Right, surgical mask.
Pattern.
That's right.
So that is the one that works with our 6.5-inch strip die.
Okay. I have the 6.5 strip die, so tell me more about what I should be doing with that.
So that actually, if you follow the Get Involved tab from our main page,
okay,
there's a pattern there that goes directly to how to make one using our 6.5-inch strip die. So you cut the 6.5-inch strips, and then you cut it down to 9.5 inches, and it finishes up to 6 by 9. And the pattern there does have the pleats. Now the pattern on there right now has it for elastic, but it can be modified.
Yeah.
For, like you said, to be made with the 1/4-inch bias binding.
That was super easy to do. And if you're, I think if I had a 1.5 inch, it would be better, but I don't have that die. So I modified it so that it doesn't quite when I fold it in half, then I don't put it, when I do the 1/4, like when you're doing, you fold it in half, you open it, and then you fold it a little bit. I don't go all the way to the front, the middle, and that seemed to be just fine for the outer edges. I'm not very good at explaining things, but but the 1.5 worked.
We get it.
We get it.
Yeah. So we went out to our educators group and to Pam early on and asked, what can we make using a die that we have out there.
Yeah.
And that's what we came up with, was that 6.5-inch strip die. We also, just yesterday, I had a group from the Iowa Unity Hospitals reach out to us, and they are looking for, they were looking for the Olsen Mask.
Right.
Which is
so explain what the Olsen, we're learning so much about masks. So
I know.
Tell us what the Olsen mask is. We had someone on yesterday, a couple days ago that was talking about the Olsen mask. So tell us about that.
So that one is actually, I believe that one is a total of 6 layers, because it has the face piece and then a cheek piece, and then it's also got an insert for an additional filter. So yesterday we have a custom division. So our group Custom Shape Pros, I was able to work with them, and yesterday at about 8, I talked to somebody who was looking for this Olsen mask, and by 5 p.m. They had already drawn it up, approved it, put an order in, and it was burned today, and it should be shipped actually by now.
Amazing. Are you guys going to be having that on your website as well?
So as of right now, the plan for that is to go to customshapepros.com, or they can call that phone number, and they are standing by and ready with that. It's that phone number is 888-525-2017, and if they ask for the Olsen mask, they'll all know what you're talking about.
And then another thing that we've done at AccuQuilt is create a an email address. So if you're a group out there and you're an organized group and you have a spokesperson who is trying to create masks for groups of people that you partnered with, a medical group or whatever,
right.
You can send your email request to masks@AccuQuilt.com.
Oh my gosh.
Then we will reach back out to you. Joy's running that group of reaching back out to you and saying, well, okay, what does your group want? Because the thing that we've learned in the last week, we know so much about face masks. The thing that we've learned is different organizations require different sizes.
They do.
Different fabrics.
That's right.
And the mask that we made the dye for is actually cotton broadcloth. It's going to go over the medical real doctor masks.
Uh-huh.
It allows them to use those masks more than once.
Got it. So how much, okay, so if people are listening and they're like, I want the Olsen mask and I want it on an AccuQuilt dye, one is how much is it going to cost and how quickly can you get it to people?
I will have to provide you with the pricing on that. I don't have it off the top of my head, but we can get that to you by tomorrow. And they are, while these are being custom made, it's less than a 3-day turnaround.
Got it.
Yeah.
And if more people, do you think that you'll ever put it on your main website so people can order them, or is that going to be too difficult for you?
It's something we're discussing.
Yeah.
Because it's so hard to know whether this is a flash in the pan of something that it's going to be.
Is it going to be like a week? Right.
Right.
I totally agree. It's so stressful.
And if people only need it for 2 weeks and then we've moved on, I don't want to have the e-commerce team spending time doing that.
Yeah.
So that's why right now we're sending them through our custom division. So we've got the Olsen Mask or the 6.5-inch strip die. We do have the option of what Pam was just talking about, the 8x12, that's specifically made for an N95 cover. And that's just so they can be used longer.
Okay.
And then we're also working on one more custom pattern that comes in 3 separate sizes. I haven't been able to find the name for what that one is called, but it almost looks like an axe head, and it comes in small, medium, and large.
Interesting.
And so that one will.
Okay,
be
so
available
let's review because it's confusing. So right now, if you have an AccuQuilt die, you can do a number of things. So you can either, if you have the 6.5-inch die, you can be cutting out 6.5 by, you cut them out at 6.5. Hold on, let me get my die so I can take a look so I can show this. Okay, I'm back. I have things with me. Okay, so I know we're audio, but we may release it because people are asking for video sometimes. Okay, so the 6.5 die is like long, right? It's giving you a big long strip in the middle.
Right.
And then, and you're putting a bunch of layers.
Don't forget you can cut 6 layers.
6 layers, right? And you can fold it over, right? Is that true?
Correct.
Yeah.
And then you can subcut those 6.5-inch strips to 6.5 by 9.5. So you'll have to use your rotary cutter.
Got it. And then you're sewing those 6.5 by 9 together.
Right. And those masks are making personal masks. They're not for the medical use. They're not for hospitals, but they're for people. I mean, some
hospitals are accepting them.
Are these
style.
surgical masks? Are they the kind that I'm making,
surgical
right?
style.
Yeah,
Yes,
surgical
what you're
style.
making.
And you're putting a couple pleats in.
Yes.
You're putting them together. Right.
Yes.
Okay. So there's that.
Yes.
Okay. Oh my goodness. Okay. So I have a couple of questions for you because I have you here before we move on. So the surgical masks, when I see if I'm doing it right. So I'm putting, I've got one layer of fabric and it's folded over and it's the width of the fabric so far.
Okay.
Okay. Now I'm putting it on this black line at the top. Is that right?
Yes.
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 And then I run it through. And then I just snip it here, so then at the top, so that
you don't have to snip it if you make it just below that black line.
That's what I was asking you.
Yes.
See,
So
okay, go just below the black line, and then I won't have to snip it. Is that right?
Right. That tells you where the end of the blades are on that end.
Nice.
Make sure on the other end, it hasn't gone down far enough that
That was my next question.
black line down there. Yeah.
I had that other problem is I had like I snip on the other side because it was too long.
Yeah. So what you can do, Elizabeth, is just fold that end.
Oh, you're so
little black line
clever.
there.
You are so
sometimes
clever.
I know
Okay,
stuff.
I will do that.
So handy to have around.
Well, if you have the dies, so a lot of us have 2.5-inch dies because we use them for binding.
Right.
How do you feel about that? Are they just too thick to use for ties, or you think it's okay?
I think they are too thick because here's what happens. We're going to take them and fold them in half like you did and press them and bring them to the center and fold them. And I think they're just going to be too wide.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be uncomfortable.
Yeah,
So
I have one like that. I tried it, the first one, and it just feels like it's hard to tie. You know, it doesn't stay tied as easily. It's just a little bit struggly.
Right.
Yeah.
So the one that I have found that works perfect is 1 3/4 inch.
1 3/4. Interesting.
You could use 2 as well. But,
Yeah, I used 2 today. 2 was okay. I found the 1 1/4 is a little small, but I can make it work. So I think it's like, I think for people out there, I think quilters get very nervous about like having the right stuff. But I don't think that's what's happening right now. I think if you have a strip die, use it. If you have a bigger die, use it. Now, if people want to order stuff, let's talk about, so that's the first thing is the surgical mask, which is basically a rectangle. There's a lot of different sizes out there. You can decide what you want the size, 3 pleats, and then the bias on each side.
Correct.
If you have elastic, you could do it a different way, but a lot of us don't have elastic. Or we had elastic and we've run out of elastic.
And it is now gone.
It's gone, right. The run on elastic, right. We're like toilet paper. You don't even know. It's elastic that's the thing. Okay. So tell me more about the other dies that people may either have in their stash or that they may want to order from you.
So I would tell you that if your group, your organized group, are making covers for those N95 masks, you can order from us that custom die that's 8 inches wide by 12 inches long. That's the rectangle that it cuts, and it's super easy. You're going to put 2 pieces together. You're going to sew, just bring the edges together and run elastic through that. And for those of you who don't have elastic, we have found like headbands. Those elastic headbands can be used there. You can also use ties there. But I would caution you before you order that particular custom die, make sure that the hospital that you've partnered with or the clinic, that's the size
that they want that. Yeah.
Right. And see, for example, Methodist, they wanted not only that size, but they wanted white broadcloth and white polyester thread and white elastic. And the reason is they're going to bleach them.
Yeah.
And so they wanted to make sure that they were durable enough that they would last the bleaching. So, and then my other suggestion is for those of you who are making masks and you're using that elastic or you using those elastic headbands, put them in like a mesh garment bag before you put them in your washer, because otherwise those elastic ties are going to catch and you're going to have a mess.
Cool.
And then if you have another request, you can reach out to us at masks@AccuQuilt.com or call Custom Shape Pros and say, hey, my medical group, we need 10,000 masks and they need to be this size.
Right.
They can help you with that.
Interesting.
And as of today, any of those other mask dies, including that 8x12 rectangle, the Olsen mask, or the other sized mask that we're working on, those will all go through Custom Shape Pros right now.
Got it.
With that phone number that I listed before. And they are ready for that. They have been told, they are prepared. They're making a list for when it is finally ready to go. And
are these like, so when you're making these dies for groups, are you making like 10 of them? Like how many dies are you making, and how big a group do you need to be to have a custom? Like is it affordable for like a small guild? I mean, the other problem is that we can't share anything right now. So this is a big problem, right? We can't, usually we just all get together and like make stuff, and we can't do that. So it's frustrating.
Yeah, so what I would recommend for that, if you have an organized group, especially one that's making one for hospitals or that sort of thing, reach out via that email, masks plural at AccuQuilt.com, because we've been working to make it affordable.
Great.
Like as needed, loaning a studio machine if we need to.
That's really
or,
great.
You know, some sort of library, like almost like a library program where you send it to us, you cut your masks and you send it back. So
because they don't need it, they'll only need to cut it for a short. And then it was the whole. Did you see? Governor Cuomo was saying that yesterday of like, send us all your stuff, and then when we're done, we'll send it to the next hotspot.
Right. Exactly.
So your idea is these may be that they could go different places.
Yeah.
So to give you go ahead, Joy.
Well, I was just going to say, for an organized group, that's the way to go, is to reach out to me, and I'm handling all of those on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah.
And these grassroots sort of things are popping up like crazy. But to give you an example, this group that Pam set me on to over the weekend had, I think, was it 800 or 8,000, Pam?
800 people in 24 hours.
Yeah, no, we've seen this. We put up a website and we had 1,000 people visit in the first 24 hours. Right. Yeah. So, I mean, all our website is doing is gathering, like we'll put your stuff, every time we find something that's major, we're putting it on there so that people can have a place to go to look for things, you know.
So, Elizabeth, you asked a great question about how are we going to cut these? So, Judy, who owns our local quilt shop here, the Celtic Quilter, she had a big classroom space so we could be socially distant from each other.
Yeah.
We had 4 cutters, 2 studios and 2 go bigs. And Joy and I cut some for a couple of hours, but she and a group of volunteers. So what she did was, so many people wanted to volunteer. And she said, great, come in for 2 hours and cut. And they had fabric there. And
that's amazing.
And together. So in 24 hours, they put together 6,000 kits.
And then they're sending them out to different groups so that they can just make them.
Right. So the Nebraska Methodist Hospital is going to gather those, and
amazing.
They have already set out it's super cute. The big trash cans, and they're labeled. So these are like kits, and these are like finished kits, and these are supplies, and they're brand new, so people can just take and leave what they need. Because maybe they're taking kits and they have at home, 10 yards of elastic.
So they're fine, right?
Yeah, and so it's this great process but in 24 hours they cut 6,000
That's
kits.
Amazing. Do you think we're going to be making masks for a while?
I think, personally, I think maybe about a month of this.
Yeah. While industry gets up and running here to cut, it's going to take time for industry to get there, get the supplies, get them to the hospitals. And so we're like a stopgap, you think?
Right. And I kind of feel like it's already been going for about a week. So I feel like we have 2 more weeks of making masks.
Yeah.
And, see what else people need. But
so it's so interesting.
I feel it's a great group.
Yeah. So for the person that's out there, the solo person, I have to say, it's been a very overwhelming experience personally. Yeah. I have a lot of health issues. My daughter does. We're in the middle of like one of the epicenters. We're totally terrified. It's horrifying. We've been in the house together, my husband and I, now since March 13th. We're just like, oh, it's you again, right? And something about the sewing today, because I've been doing the website and like interviewing people, and there's just always blah, 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 so much sewing. So it was so calming and so soothing in a way that I haven't felt centered for like 2 weeks. So I really encourage people to make masks, both because you're helping your community, but it's going to help your mental health. And for me, I wanted a simple pattern because it wasn't about like, right now I just need simple. I'm going to try the other one, the Olsen Mask, probably maybe tomorrow or the next day. But right now, the basic surgical mask, not even a pouch for anything. I mean, just the most basic thing. It was really good. So I encourage you to do it. And I don't even know where I'm donating them yet. So I know the basic surgical masks are everywhere. So So Joy, your thoughts?
I have somewhere for you that actually I've been working on getting just partnering with them to help them where they can. It's a group called WeNeedMasks.org.
I interviewed them.
No way.
Yes, I did.
Awesome.
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. Yeah, I'll chat with them. They have a list, right? And there's another list out of Berkeley. We're calling it Alexa's list. Alexa, stop. Okay, we have one in the house right next to me, so it goes off when I say her name. But she's a PhD student out of Berkeley in public health, and she's contacting every single hospital. I don't know if you know about her, but she's and then asking what they need in terms of, like, are you accepting masks? What kind of pattern is it? So that's really interesting. So there's a lot of groups out there, but yeah, we interviewed WeNeedMasks.org. They're amazing. A sister team, right?
Yeah,
They're
are.
great.
It's the American Sewing Network, I think.
Yeah.
I'm forgetting the
American Sewing Guild. Is it the Guild?
Yeah. Yes. ASG. So I ended up in touch with her yesterday because I just found him on Facebook.
Right.
We're all Googling masks.
That's right.
I was so excited when I saw that list because what I've seen is chaos. People are trying so much to help that it's almost creating
Well, that's
chaos.
why we started. We started Seth Hackler, who's Quilting on a Budget, who's got 37,000 people in his group, and our group, our little group, which is like 3,000. We just saw so much chaos, so we did start 1 million masks a day, which is aspirational. We're not counting how many masks are being made, and then the website. And it really was just to dump everything so people could start to sort of see what's happening. We saw that Joann's came out today, right, with their kits. So that's interesting, and a different market, right? That's a very kind of like. Right. People who don't normally sew, don't have fabric at home, like it's, or maybe some sewers, but I see it as a different market than kind of the more advanced quilters who are using AccuQuilt, who know what they're doing. You know, it's just a different level. So it's interesting. Do you see other responses in the industry? How is the quilting industry doing in their response to this?
Well, one of the things that I have seen on social media is so much involvement using our product with kids.
Interesting.
You're going to cut surgical masks. If you come to our house, Oakley, my 5-year-old granddaughter, is going to be here, and she's going to run that fabric through the
It's so great. It's perfect for them.
Business, yeah. And so I think we're looking for opportunities not only to serve, but to teach, right?
Yeah.
To teach those younger kids and those grandkids, because we're all here together. Right.
It's so interesting. My niece who lives in Texas, who does not sew, she's a very serious gymnast who has no interest in anything other than gymnast stuff. The gym is closed, and their high school has them making masks for service hours.
Great.
So they were like showing me their masks, and they're very simple. They're the surgical. Anybody can do a surgical mask. Seriously, anybody can do it. That's like the easiest one. Now, the other question we have is that we get a lot is whether to have a pocket or to do interface. And there's all this filter question. What are your thoughts about that part of it?
Well, I feel like the guidelines, and Joy will probably talk a little bit about that, are so different, right, for every group that wants them. And so we haven't come out with the best way to make them.
That's not what you guys do. You cut fabric.
Right. Yeah,
I would say defer to your medical experts on that, and that's why I think the organization of groups like 1 Million Masks a Day or WeNeedMasks.org that are sort of building these databases of places accepting masks.
It's so cool.
That's where you go. So you're helping, because all of us quilters and sewists, we're trying to be industrious. And in my mind, there's just nothing worse than the idea of spending hours and hours, lots of money on fabric, lots of time, and then them not actually being able to use
Now, I interviewed somebody yesterday that you all should get in touch with, which is FrontlineMasks.com. Do you know about Frontline Masks?
No.
He's this guy, and he's making these very complicated masks that are like not a replacement, but pretty good for N95 and having filters. But he doesn't know about you all. And I think that you like, if he could make a dye for what he's doing, it would be a lot better, because his patterns are very, I'm not saying very complicated, but they're complicated. And if they had the notches and the way you put it together and like all of that stuff. So once we finish, I'll connect you guys because I think he's like a textile guy that like, I don't know, he's like a guy, you know what I mean? Like he's like an industrial guy. And he's trying to help make patterns that are, he's got this thing, he's got a pattern he believes in. He's got like a mission. But we looked at it and it was like, that looks a little, that looks a little hard. So maybe your system would help him to make it a little more accessible because he's trying to reach out to sewists. And I think he may be having a struggle on that side of it, you know.
Okay, I'm looking at it now.
Yeah,
I'd love the introduction.
Right? Isn't it like perfect for you guys?
To do.
Right?
Yeah.
You're like, we can make a die.
This would be so easy.
Yeah, exactly. And the problem with the pattern that I see, and again, I'm not trying to be negative, but it's a little complicated if you have to cut it out. Right?
Yeah. It looks like any way other than a die, you are not going to get accuracy on that.
That's right. It's going to be really frustrating. Yeah, I was like, I'm not really good at that.
To cut those out by hand.
Oh, yeah.
The time. Yeah.
If you create a pattern, a template, you still have to trace it on the fabric, and then you have to cut out all the pieces. And so, you know, when I think that we made, 6,000 kits.
That's right. You could do that. Right.
Right.
Yeah, and that's what I was going for. I was like, I have 2 hours of me time. I want to make 10 masks, right? I want start to finish. I want them all done. I don't want to be fussy cutting or doing any weird things. So that's why I went with a surgical mask. Do you see people asking for the pocket on the surgical mask to put something in? Have you seen much of that?
I've seen 1 or 2 requests for the pocket on the surgical. It's more been the pocket on the Olsen.
Yeah, the Olsen is like the hardcore one. I like, you know what I like about WeNeedMasks.org? I really like them. They're so funny and they're so great. And it was such a great interview. Is that they're reaching out. So the other list from Berkeley, whose name I can't say because someone will turn on. Hers is really focused on hospitals, like the top hospitals with ICU. That's what she's focused on. What WeNeedMasks.org is. Like convalescent homes and animal places and like all these crazy, right? I'm like, I'm making little cat ones next because I'm like, I will hope that somebody here needs them because I think that's awesome.
Well, it makes so much sense too because you really don't want to be using these masks for the frontline responders.
No,
that
we're
are
secondary.
Interacting with people who have coronavirus.
That's right.
But none of us want to feel like we have that responsibility when we're making these, right?
Right.
But the veterinaries, the orthodontists, the dentists, they're all giving their masks away. Exactly.
The other place I'm starting to think about is our grocery stores and Lowe's and these places because they're not wearing masks. And I'm wondering, I don't know if this is enough protection for them because they're in the public, but they'd be friendly. They wouldn't seem scary and it'd be at least a little bit more help. I mean, they're like our heroes, right? The people working at like Walmart and CVS and our local grocery shops, man, they are on the front lines. They are our soldiers right now, and they're not being protected.
Yeah, I agree. And even though they, obviously according to the CCB guideline or CDC guidelines, these aren't an N95, but they still say it's better than nothing.
Better than nothing.
So at the very least, let's, give them some sort of armor instead of sending them into battle with nothing.
It's horrible. They just stand there. One of my colleagues, her daughter works at CVS as a cashier, and she's waiting for results. So, I mean, it's just not, they're there working for not much money, and they're helping us that are able to, I don't know. It's hard. It's a very hard time.
I feel like we should embroider lips and mustaches on it.
Totally.
But nobody's going with me.
We have to talk to our embroidery people, right? Where we're like, I was asking no one ever gave me the answer, but I was like, we have all this like stabilizer and interfacing. Like, why aren't we putting that in the mask? But I don't know anything about it. So Pellon, I think, came out with like their suggestions on which one, but said like, we don't really know anything, but here's a suggestion. But come on. I mean, like I talked to a fabric people and they were like, our fabric's really not made for this. Like, like none of us are supposed to be doing this. It's craziness. All right. So how are you keeping your spirits up, and how are you and your families doing? How is life? Are you self-quarantined right now?
We are, and I have to tell you, AccuQuilt is really working hard to make sure that we have this virtual interaction every day. So I work on Joy's team and in the marketing team, and so we have a little virtual Zoom call or a Slack call every morning at 9, and we talk about what's important and what do we need to do. And then as a company on Fridays we have what we call Too Thirsty, so you can have a drink of beverage of alcohol or not. And so now we have virtual Too Thirsties.
Nice.
So and we show what we're doing.
I like that.
I think as a company, we're really, wouldn't you agree, Joey, that we're just really reaching out to make sure that everybody feels like their questions are being answered and that they're being productive in their workspace.
And that's really great. That's really great. Sorry.
Yeah. And for me, I think personally, I'm a quilter. This is like what we live for, right? Because I have all these UFOs. So in the evenings when I can't go anywhere, I'm quilting. And so, for me, it's been okay. I think the hardest part is for kids. Oakley started kindergarten this year, and she really misses her teacher, and she misses school, and she misses that routine that 5-year-olds need. Yeah. So,
my teen does too. My teen's online constantly, but they're like, I only get to see you and Dad.
Yeah.
It's funny that you say that. I've got two 11-year-olds, and they are doing different online school, and one of them is bringing his friends up on his phone and setting them in front of him while he's doing
nice.
And sorry, he's literally just walking by. So while they're doing classwork on Khan Academy or through the various options through the school, he's setting his friends up. And I went in there and I snapped at him yesterday because I'm like, it's distracting you. And then I realized, oh, wait, you're used to doing this in a classroom with people who have inputs. So maybe this isn't so strange.
Right. That's nice.
But it's,
they're adapting and really interested. The Gen Zs are really adapting to this in amazing ways. I think my kid, they were joking about having, because their prom got canceled, that they were going to try to have a virtual prom.
Yeah, there you go. Probably the best thing that I've done, and with the help of AccuQuilt, so everybody in the country has a Zoom account now.
Right.
And I teach Sunday school to 8 to 10-year-olds. So we have 13 kids in our Sunday school class. So I sent them all a Zoom link. So Sunday afternoons at 1 o'clock, we all get together on Zoom, and we have just a little,
so great.
Like we have a scripture, and we talk about, how everybody's doing. But last week was the first week that we did it. And I have to tell you, Elizabeth, they were so excited to see each other.
Oh, I know, right?
Baby, and muted, and everything.
It's so important.
Yeah, and it was great. And I feel like that's the best way to use technology.
Yeah,
right?
it really is remarkable, isn't it?
To do that. So
we've been working really hard too, just to keep the employees engaged. It's funny because most of us can do our work from home. It's a matter of getting it set up.
Right.
So what we've done as a team is the executive team is meeting twice a day. I'm on more calls than I've ever been in my life. The executive team is meeting twice a day. The various leaders are meeting with their teams at least once a day. And then we also came out with something I've wanted to do for the longest time and never was able to make it a priority, is a corporate communication. So right now we're doing 3 times a week, just a short, almost newsletter type thing where we're checking in and giving call outs to people who really did something great for the company. And I think that too is helping
hugely
just bring people together. And then another gal on my team who's great, outgoing extrovert, she loves people, and so she's coming up with just different things to engage everybody with, like what you have for lunch today, or what project are you working on, or how are you keeping yourself sane through this. And it keeps people talking, almost like you are standing next to each other.
That's really really interesting. Oh, I like it. I'm so glad. It's so funny because I feel like I need this time with you. There's a sense of like
a new human to look at.
Another human, and that people are still on the planet, and it's all. Yeah. I think as I said, I think Zoom is one of the great heroes of our moment. It is a Zoom moment, which is kind of remarkable too. It really is. So crazy. Well, any last words? We're all making masks. Make them. Order your dyes. If they order dyes, that was my question. So if I go to your website and order the dyes, how long is it going to take? And is there anything else I should know about ordering the dyes from your website?
So the strip dyes for the surgical masks are taking standard shipping times, so out in a couple of days. And that's on our AccuQuilt site. If you want the custom, the Olsen one, or the 8x12 that's the N95 cover, that you have to call the phone number for Custom Shape Pros, and they are making those a priority. So those go out fast. The first ones burned in the day. I'm seeing like 48-hour or less turnaround time on that. So
awesome. Love it.
Working to get them out.
Cool. Awesome. Anything else?
No, be safe in New Orleans.
Yes, I know. I'm so scared. They're saying next week is going to be bad, and the week after.
Isn't that interesting? I had a doctor's appointment, just a standard doctor's appointment that they didn't cancel, and I needed to have done. And I called my dad, who's out in California, and I said, for the first time in my life, I feel scared to leave the house. Yeah. And that's a very new experience.
Yeah, it is.
It's something
weird,
we take for granted here.
Yeah. We're used to leaving when there's a hurricane. We leave. That was our deal when we moved here 12 years ago. Was like, we're leaving no matter what. I mean, we're going to run. We're not staying and being heroic. And you can't run. That right. I was talking to my sister-in-law. I'm like, where would we go? I mean, you guys are doing better than we are, but that doesn't mean that once we got there that you'd be doing. You know what I mean? Like, it's scary.
Right. Well, and I think it's just so important to just at this time stay connected, to your family and to your people and your work and your neighbors. I was thinking the other day, Ray and I drove to the pharmacy, and there were kids out in our neighborhood playing, and normally those kids play together and they live across the street from each other. But that day there were this kids on this side and those kids on that side, but they were still playing soccer and, all that kind of stuff. Anyways, we drove through. They were like waving at us and yelling at us. And so we stopped and rolled the windows down, and they were like, how you doing? It's so good to see.
I know. It's really.
So I just think when it's all over, we should think about what we're going to do, who we're going to hug, and we're going to go out and eat dinner at a restaurant and tip our waiter as much as bill. And all of those kind of things.
Well, all of our fancy restaurants in New Orleans are still open and doing takeout and drive and delivery. And including alcohol.
Oh, there you go.
You can order a very nice bottle of, we're not those kind of people, but you can order a very nice bottle of wine from Commander's or wherever.
Can you imagine, 4 weeks ago, us talking about curbside pickup of alcoholic beverages, but
hey, now we are.
We adapt.
Right, exactly. Well, thank you again for all your time. I know you're both really busy. And thank you for helping me figure out how to use my AccuQuilt, which is always good. And
always good.
Yeah, this is great. Feel free if you guys make another if you if you just reach out to me if more things change or you have a new dye that you want to talk about. I think this is the best way. We keep trying to get together with our little group, but they're all like, they want every single time in the 24-hour thing. It's they're very scattered. So that's been hard, but this is easy. So reach out to me again. And hold on. I know that it said recording paused. I've been recording it on the local thing. So let me turn off the thing and then let me get you some information on that guy. Okay. Thank you again.
You're welcome.
So you've been listening to Just Wanna Quilt, a research podcast coming out of Tulane University Law School. And I'm Elizabeth Townsend Garr. If you like this podcast, keep listening. Also, we have a Facebook group. Come join us. We talk about a lot of things. We also have an Instagram account. And of course, most importantly, I really hope you get a chance to quilt today.